BJ Board Game Gumbo, I've got my guest here, Brian Suhre, and we're talking about spicy games that I played. You've got a game that's coming out pretty fairly soon that I know that you've played a lot because when it's in that last development stage, designers have to play it a lot, and that's the follow-up, could we call it, to Coldwater Crown, called Freshwater Fly?
Yeah, I guess you'd call it a follow-up. It's a standalone game. It's a completely different game. But it's fishing. I think when I was wrapping up Coldwater and it was on Kickstarter, I was already thinking I wanted to do a fly fishing game. And so I started designing it, and then later I pretty much presented it to Dennis from Bellwether Games and was like, I got another one. So so I started working on it. I think for me, this one was really a passion project. I really just love the culture of fly fishing, and for me, this one was different than it was with Coldwater. Where with Coldwater, it's a fishing. I wanted to make it feel like a fishing tournament, not so much that you are actually fishing, because I was a little afraid at that at first. Because it's considered a sport in a sense, and most sport games are kind of hard to get across. And you're also, in Coldwater, you're zoomed out. You're looking you're far, far away. You're looking down at the map. And in Freshwater, I zoomed you all the way in. You are fighting the fish all the way in. You've got a rod, you've got a reel, and you're reeling it in.
I mean, it actually looks in this picture that I'm showing. I'm doing a little solo here.
Yep.
It looks like you've got a reel in the middle of that with the action pieces.
So if you got down here at the bottom where you see these little, down there where you see those little colorful wooden pieces, that is what we call the hatch. So in fly fishing, the hatch are all the bugs that have hatched for the day, and they're what the fish are feeding on. So when you fly fish, you'll go down to the lake or the river and you'll look at what bugs are flying around and what the fish are feeding on. So generally you're trying to match the type of bug that's flying around or in the water, and you're also trying to see what stage that bug is in when they're eating it. Is it in a nymph stage, an egg stage, or is it an adult? So what I wanted to do with this is there's 6 colors, and they just match those. There's 6 colors of those little wooden pieces at the bottom. Okay. And so when you're fly fishing, you're going to have 6 colored flies, and you're going to tie on the right fly that's going to match what those fish are trying to get. So that where you see those fish, there's a column of 3 fish above that there, and all the fish in that column are going to be wanting to bite anything that's white or blue in that one column there. So you're going to want to try to get a white or blue fly into that column. So the puzzle is changing your fly and casting it out and allowing it to drift downstream. So for example, if I had a blue fly on, and you see there's 2 blue wooden pieces there, I can cast downstream, and as it moves and drifts downstream, I'm going to get a chance to catch a fish at each of those little columns that have that blue hatch in it. So once you've caught a fish, which is kind of a little bit of a puzzle in itself, you're going to take that little wooden piece there and you're going to insert it into your reel. And then from there, you're going to be using kind of a rondelle mechanism. Ooh. So your own player board has 5 sections and 5 powers. And this is a dice drafting game. So there's going to be a pool of dice. And on your turn, you're going to take 1 die. And if you don't have a fish, you're going to use that die to go cast. And if you do have a fish, you're going to use that die to reel. And that die is going to tell you how far you're going to crank your wheel around. And then that's where you're going to land on that power. If you catch big fish, you have to go around your reel 3 times. Medium fish, you go around 2, and then 1 fish, you're going to have to go around 1 time before you catch it. So the small fish are really low in points, and the big fish take more time to reel in. But each one of those spots that you land on are really powerful actions. So that's pretty close to what you're doing there. The puzzle is really in the dice drafting. It's in the casting, and I really wanted a personal feel with this one. Everybody has their own player board, their own reel, but the way they score is very personal to them. And then that player board overlaps with everyone else in a certain way, but there are certain things that mean more to them than others. So for example, Like when you're fly fishing, you may have your fly box and you really love these certain flies. Maybe you made these flies, right? Maybe those were the flies that you made. And this is something I wanted to kind of bring to this game of being personal. Maybe you really love to catch a grayling. And so maybe that means more to you on your board. Everything in this game is very personal to your player board and how you are when you're playing. And I think that's really the big draw I wanted with this game. Obviously, the rondelle is really the big like visual catching thing, and then obviously the art. The art is fantastic. I think Daryl did a fantastic job with that.
Bill wanted to know, is Freshwater going to be on Kickstarter?
Yes, Dennis is looking at the end of March. So end of March, really quick here.
So Kevin said, hey, that's a real rondelle. Is that right?
It's a real rondelle.
That is funny. So Jason, who's coming to the fest a couple of weeks, says, hey, teach me Coldwater at Fest. Jason, I'll be bringing it. Actually, the library has a copy. So we will be teaching Coldwater Crown at the Southern Board Game Fest. So come on over, Jason. So Bradley had a question. Brian, with 2 fishing games now, did the desire to design based on fishing, does it come from your personal interests, or do you just see it as something that had been addressed in gaming already, or both?
Well, I pitched a game to Dennis, and that's Bellwether, and he liked it, but I told him I had some concerns, and I'd like a little bit more time with it. And then I broke it down and messaged him, and about a month or so later, and I said, hey, how do you like fishing? I think when I looked at it at the time, it was more just me trying to make what I wanted. And I think I really just wanted to have I think fishing meant something to me in that way. I didn't look at it as like it hadn't been done. And then, Dennis took a big risk and we put out a fishing game. So, and then from there, we didn't know how Coldwater was going to do. I mean, it didn't blow anybody away on Kickstarter. When it came out afterwards, I was amazed at how the word of mouth and the praise it got. It really blew me away.
Yeah, it's one of those games where the momentum has been slow to build, but it just keeps building and building as people play it and start to talk about it, right?
Right. I've learned just from over the years with Coldwater is nobody's afraid to tell me how much they hate fishing. They go out of their way to tell me how much they hate fishing.
Right.
Even at BGG Con, when we were there, we were running the booth, and I watched this guy walk by, and he looked, and he stopped, and he came back, and I'm like, oh, he's coming back. He saw that he saw something he liked. All right, and he just goes, I hate fishing, and walked away. And I mean, no one is afraid. I don't know what it is. I think it's really weird. It was something that meant something to me, but I think a lot of people have bad experiences.
They don't come up to you and say, oh, I hate paradoxes. I just can't stand the thought of a paradox.
No, I've never heard that ever. Right,
but they'll say, I hate fishing. What attracted me, well, number one, the Draft Mechanic podcast, they're like your biggest sellers. But Jeremy, the Game Geek Ninja, he just kept telling me, you got to play this game. He knows my taste in games. He knows I like that 1 hour, although, it can take a little bit longer than an hour if you have 4 people. But if you play with 2 or 3 people, you can easily play this game in about 45 minutes, 50 minutes. So, and I love that 1 hour wonder style of a game. And he's like, you got to play this game.
Well, yeah, I think a couple of them who was there at the demo table had played it, correct? That was
no, just Ninja. He was the only one.
Okay.
Ninja was the only one, and he played it. And of course, me and Dave bought 2 of your last copies that y'all had there. I mean, it's been selling very well as far as I can tell. And of course, I've heard that it's out on a lot of the internet sites, probably in anticipation for the C's being out there right now, right?
Yep, the C I think is hitting retailers. Should be hitting retailers now. I think it's up online retailers and brick and mortar.
So you had talked briefly about the yeah, you're right, Ninja, you were right. It's right up my alley, and it's exactly the kind of game I like to play. But one of the things that I was curious about, so the art intrigued me on the board and on the cards and everything else. This seems like the same art, but almost on steroids a little bit. Is it the same artist or a different artist?
No, this is a different artist. This is
Okay.
Daryl Jones, and they nailed it. This fly fishing was something personal to me. I follow a lot of artists that do that are in that fly fishing culture, and they do a lot of that art. And I can't believe I didn't get to see art for the longest time. So when I started seeing little snippets of it, I was floored. So they hit the perfect feeling that I kind of wanted this game to have. And I'm amazed with how it looks and how it turned out.
Well, Dennis is killing me though. He gave us this little tiny picture.
He is evil. He is very evil.
It's like just little snippets of what we really want to see.
He does that to me. See how he's layered all that in there to look like you can't see too much? That's me on the other end too.
I wish I could see the front. Now there was a front cover on the Kickstarter page for Coldwater Crown. I don't know if that's still, I think that was kind of an early thing, but oh look, there's Miklos saying, and Miklos is going to be on the show in a couple of weeks. Miklos says, my wife would say the same thing about the fishing thing. I don't like fishing, but I want to try it. Yeah, look, don't let the theme bother you. I mean, I don't necessarily want to build big giant Roman buildings, but although I love Rome and I love Roman history, I don't really want to build them. But it's fun to imagine yourself in a game like Coldwater Crown. It really does feel like you're fishing out there, fishing in the seas, and maybe I'm going to grab one of these ones off the top, a little luck instead of the ones that I see in front of me. So it's got that thing. That is Coldwater Crown, and the spiritual successor, we'll call it, as people like to say, Freshwater Fly. Oh, when can we expect Freshwater Fly?
It's end of March is where we're looking to go on Kickstarter.